Hello and welcome to Pixelrize's scene on von Gierke disease, part of our playlist on the glycogen storage disorders. In this image, we'll quickly review everything you need to know about this disease, including its pathological cause, as well as its clinical findings. We'll also touch base on a bit of biochemistry that explains why this rare disease carries such high mortality among children. To help you remember the term von Gierke, this disease takes place inside a jerky factory. Get it? Jerky for Gierke? Welcome to von Gierke's factory, where we make our world-famous fox meat jerky. Just take a look at our state-of-the-art production line, churning out the jerky you know and love. Let me start you on the tour. First, take a look at these small factory forklifts parked here. Small automobiles like these forklifts are a recurring symbol for autosomal recessive inheritance, while autosomal dominant inheritance is symbolized by large cars like trucks and tanks. These small forklifts should help you remember that von Gierke disease is inherited in an autosomal recessive pattern. Next, notice these sacks of sugar stored by a production line. These sacks storing sugar are Pixelrize's recurring symbol for glycogen, which similarly functions to store glucose for later use by the body. These sugar sacks should help you remember that von Gierke disease is a glycogen storage disorder. But did you notice the fox inside the sugar sack? Uh-oh. Those pesky foxes have not only found their way into the sugar sacks, but also into the piles of sugar loaded on the production line. The word fox should help you remember the term phosphate. Notice how there's a fox in each sugar pile. You could even say that the foxes or phosphate groups are inseparable from the glucose and sugar. Von Gierke disease is caused by a defect in glucose 6-phosphatase, which normally removes phosphate from glucose 6-phosphate, producing free glucose. If you remember your biochemistry, you'll know that this is the common last step of both gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis. The inability to make free glucose leads to severe hypoglycemia during fasting, which leads to the signs and symptoms of the disease. So what are these clinical findings anyways? Take a look at the second ingredient of our fox jerky, sour milk. Man, how long has that milk been sitting out for? I can even see chunks in it. Anyhow, this milk gone sour should help you remember the medical condition lactic acidosis. Lactic acidosis is very important to remember because it doesn't happen in any other glycogen storage disorder, but instead is unique to von Gierke disease. And why is that the case? Well, it's because von Gierke is the only glycogen storage disorder that completely shuts down gluconeogenesis. You see, your body usually converts lactate into pyruvate using LDH, and the pyruvate is then used for making new glucose. But in von Gierke disease, gluconeogenesis stops at the final step, with buildup of intermediates all the way down to pyruvate. As a result, cells stop converting lactate into pyruvate, and lactate eventually builds up in the bloodstream. Just remember our sour milk and you'll never forget the lactic acidosis that occurs in von Gierke disease. Next, take a look at the lever on our machine with its liver-shaped handle. I guess it turns on the production line. This liver lever should help you remember that von Gierke presents with hepatosplenomegaly. This makes sense since glycogen and other metabolites build up as a result of impaired glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis in the liver. You can actually visualize this glycogen accumulation in liver biopsies of these patients. Afterwards, notice this factory worker who has stubbed his toe and is blurred in motion. The blurred motion trails are recurring symbols for seizures. These seizures result from low blood sugar, which makes sense in the context of impaired gluconeogenesis. On the other hand, this big red toe is a recurring symbol for gout, which commonly presents with acute pain in the big toe, also called podagra. The gout in von Gierke disease is actually caused by chronic lactic acidosis, as lactic acid competes with uric acid for removal by the kidney. Just remember our factory worker with his big toe, and you'll have the finding of gout under wraps. Lastly, take a look at the final ingredient in our jerky, oil. Notice how these glass bottles of oil are packaged in groups of 3. The 3 glass bottles of oil are Pixelrize's recurring symbol for hypertriglyceridemia, or hypertriglyceridemia. This is another indirect result of impaired gluconeogenesis, since triglycerides are normally broken down to eventually make glucose. In von Gierke disease, buildup of metabolites blocks the breakdown of triglycerides, which build up in the bloodstream to cause formation of xanthomas, as well as the rare development of pancreatitis. And that's it for von Gierke disease. We hope you found our tour educational. And what do you mean by yogurt? Of course we call that sour milk here. We'll see you next time.